Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 503.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because here's the thing. When it comes down to being an entrepreneur, you're in this constant state of becoming, and usually becoming more than what you were before. And it's a long way of saying where you start isn't necessarily where you stay. And that's a good thing. So, I mean, there was this idea a long time ago that, you know what, you get one job and you stay in that one job and that one company will take care of you for the entirety of your life. Yeah, we all know that that's no longer true. But the question is what am I going to do? How do I become a bigger, better, badder version of myself? Or, you know what, Jay, I've started my business and now it just doesn't seem to grow. And you know what? That's very true. I've said before, and I'll say again, you'll never out-earn your personal growth, and there are times where we all experience a plateau. Maybe you're stuck at getting started, and maybe you're stuck at 6, maybe you're stuck at 7, or even 8 figures, and you're looking like, what can I do to make it bigger, better, badder? How can I serve more people? Well, I have with me someone today who I believe will help you do that. In fact, he's built a business whose sole purpose is to help you scale. Let me rephrase. Double. Now, are you more excited? Yeah, I thought you might be. So here's what I'm going to suggest that you do today. You guys know that I have a tendency to favor athletes and artists because I believe that athletes and artists have a unique advantage when it comes to business. So that means that today you're going to learn some very valuable lessons, some lessons about failure, some lessons about repeating, some lessons about practice, some lessons about making sure that you have all the right people on the team, but you're going to learn it in a very digestible way, and you're going to learn it in an actionable way. So hopefully you're ready to listen to someone who I have known for a number of years, which I'm excited about, and now actually is residing in the United States and is here to help you as an entrepreneur build your systems and your business. I want you to help me welcome Austin Netzley. Austin, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for that intro. And it's just so interesting. As soon as we hopped on this call, Jay, I had such deja vu of when we initially connected, when I had you on my podcast, an old podcast that was a lifetime ago, over 4 years ago. So love what you're doing and just honored to be here, my friend.
It's interesting how that happens, and I'm glad that you're out there in the marketplace changing lives and making things happen. Now, for those that aren't familiar to you yet, what I would love to do is that, you know, we know, or many people may have known you from your, like you said, your previous podcast or your previous books, and maybe even the other businesses that you have done, and all of that is well and good. But here's what we want to know. Before all of the fame, the fortune, the recognition, and the people that you've helped, what we really want to know is, who is Austin Netzley?
I'm just an ambitious kid from a small town in Ohio that was just trying to figure out my way. And I thought I had that way figured out when I was 18 years old, growing up in the middle class and, you know, having money being kind of a stressor for myself and for my family growing up. I made the decision when I was young, like even before 18 years old, like 8 years old, I remember making a decision that someday, some way, I'm going to be rich. And I didn't know how. I just wanted to make sure that money was not going to be an issue for me, for my family, for my future. And I just didn't want to have to stress about that. So I go down this path and just figure out, all right, what's the best way that I can get rich? And unfortunately, the only thing I knew at the time was the corporate world. Literally 100% of my family and my family's friends were all in the corporate world. So 18 years old, I thought I had it figured out. And I said, all right, I want to be a CEO of a large company. Like that's like the best opportunity to generate wealth in the corporate world, which is again, the only path that I knew was possible for me, or that I thought was possible for me at the time. So that plan of action, a strategy of how I was going to make that happen is, number one, I was going to go get my engineering degree. My dad was an engineer, and I'm, always loved math and science and whatnot. It was a natural fit. So get my engineering degree, combine that with some sales experience. I knew that, getting myself outside of my comfort zone of the numbers and science and some of the technical details and whatnot, and having some, real world experience in sales was going to be absolutely crucial for me. And then I was going to go back after 4 years of engineering degree, go work for a couple of years, and then go back and get my MBA. And those three things, the sales, the engineering, and the MBA, that was my trifecta of was going to accelerate me up the corporate ladder. So I started working down that path, and then I learned about entrepreneurship. And as soon as I opened that little crevice, my whole world changed, and then just slowly started down and created a number of businesses. And now on my fourth business, as you mentioned, and it's just been a pretty cool journey.
Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking about. At the beginning, I said, where you start isn't necessarily where you stay. And that what it comes down to is that you've been open to, you've had a goal, but how you got to that goal or how you get to that goal, you've allowed that to remain fluid. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about something that I think a number of people are doing, especially those who are in the I would like to be one day stage. You mentioned that you made a decision. You said, I was going to be rich. I'm going to be rich, but I don't know how. There's a lot of people out there who, when they make decisions like that, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to earn more money, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to whatever. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they get to, but I don't know how, then they release that goal as not possible and never consider it again. Mm-hmm. What do you think allowed you to hold on to the vision even though you didn't know the path?
Great question. So when I started out online, one of my actually my second business, what I did is somewhat similar to what you're doing right now, is interview people. I found the most successful investors and entrepreneurs and influencers that I could find and interviewed them. And what I found is like all the details of their journeys to success were completely different, like crazily different, but the main steps were all the same. And that first step was just very simply making a decision. And when I made that decision, like an actual decision, not just like some, spur of the moment motivational decision like most people make, like when you actually make that commitment in your mind, then the how is not necessarily as important. It's not an excuse to stop you. It's a commitment in your mind that you're some way, somehow going to figure it out. And that's the kind of decision that I made. That's the exact same decision that every single person that I interviewed had in their journey to wealth and to success. And wealth and success, your definitions of that change. My definition at 21 years old was completely different than my definition now. And that's part of the reason why I have changed and had multiple businesses, because my journey, my destination changed. And that's okay. And we can touch on that a little bit more. But it really all starts with a commitment in your mind that you're going to figure it out. Sometimes, unfortunately, people wait until there's a lot of pain. But hopefully what we can do today, Jay, is like help people that are doing okay, are doing good, make that commitment, make that decision now before they have to have their back against the wall. And even you, I interviewed you. Guess what? You had a couple points in your life and in your journey where you had to make a decision. Your back was against the wall. You made that commitment in your mind, and now you've done so many awesome things.
Well, yeah, and I too recommend don't wait. But sometimes that is the catalyst for us to finally become brave enough to step into the greatness that I think we were born to be. But let me ask you this question before we talk about the definition of wealth and success and how that's changed for you and why it changes. I'm curious because you made a distinction, and I know this happens. Someone's walking their dog and they're like, "Huh? What did he mean by that?" You said you actually made a decision. And I know in their head, they're going, well, I make decisions all the time, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
How is your decision different than my decision? I made a decision 2 weeks ago and it still hasn't worked. So what would you say to that?
What I would say to that is, like, if you get as fired up over a period of weeks, let's say, 2 weeks or 4 weeks, about something as you did at that point in time, the previous 2 to 4 weeks, that's when you actually have something that's there and that's internal. What so many people do is they have an idea for a business, for instance, and then 7 days later, after a little bit of, trying some things, that's gone and they're on to the next thing and they're straight back to ground zero. But if you have that same burning fire over a period of time, that's the difference really in the decision. And with that, you start to get into motion, because you're not going to live with this like burning desire inside of you, just burning without any action at all, if it's like a true commitment and whatnot. So you're going to get into motion. And what you're going to find as soon as you get into motion is, guess what? There's going to be some roadblocks. There's going to be some challenges. And how you handle and respond to those challenges will again say whether it was just a simple, short little decision that's not a commitment, or if it was a commitment and is internal. So those two things: A, does it last? B, how do you respond to the hiccups and challenges that are going to come? Because guess what? Those are 100% guaranteed to come, as we all very well know.
But Austin, I don't want any challenges. That's not fair. You're making it sound like work. You're going to make me quit. Someone is not excited about what you just said.
If you're not excited about that, then you're not destined for that particular thing. And you've got to go back to what is it that you really want. And even now, we work with 6, 7, and even 8-figure clients. So people that have already had traction, people that have already had success in their own form. And the first thing that we go back to, Jay, is, what the heck do you really want?
Okay. And this is perfect, because you mentioned a second ago that the wealth and success definition changes. And I believe, yes, very much so. There are things that I thought I wanted a long time ago that I don't even care about today. I mean, I used to think I wanted, for example, an art collection. I'm like, yes, that's it. Now, I mean, I still appreciate art. I just don't need to own it. Mm-hmm. And those are two completely different things. So my question to you is, how has your definition of wealth and success changed, and what would you call it, and how would you define it today?
Great. When I was, again, growing up, I thought like money was it. I wanted to be rich. And what I found after I started to make good money, so I came out and I worked for a big oil company and got overly compensated in my first 12 months.
Did you say overly compensated?
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone has ever said that one, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at the time, like, it was kind of crazy. Coming out of college, no experience at all. I made 6 figures in my first year, and then went on to make 6 figures thereafter and thereafter and thereafter, between salary and investments, and really started to make money quickly. And then I quickly realized, like, wait, this money thing is like cool and it's awesome and it's great and it's like helping me and it's like giving me more opportunities, but there seems to be some other pieces to the puzzle, because like I'm not fulfilled, I'm not really that happy. There's a lot more going on. So like, what is it that I really want? And I started kind of going down this journey towards like wealth, and wealth is completely different than riches. And wealth, by definition, is like an abundance of money and things or something like that. And when you talk to wealthy people and ask them like, hey, what is wealth? Like, what is success for you? Money is a piece of it, but it's actually a smaller piece of it than what the rest of society is actually looking for. Because like through society and through, media and everything, like we look at money, like, first of all, a lot of people look at money as evil, which is like horribly wrong. But, people look at money as like the key, the secret, the everything. And it's not, it's a piece. It's very important. And I love money and I love what money provides, but it's very much only a piece. So long story short, as soon as I started making money, I learned that wasn't the solution in and of itself. And I went on this journey to figure out what I really want. And what I really actually wanted was freedom. freedom from being worried about anything. So that's, another word for that is peace of mind. I wanted freedom to do what I actually wanted without the constraints. I wanted freedom to travel, freedom to have this cloud of debt that I had. I went to school and had a small car loan and came out of college and had $81,000 worth of debt. And then that's not like, real estate debt or anything. That's like, student loans and a car loan. It's like not very good debt to have. And I started the real world like that. And I was one of, potentially millions or hundreds of thousands of kids that were doing this. Fortunately, I had, a good plan of action to like address that and generate the financial wealth. But like, that's a tough position to start in. So I went from wanting to have money to then realizing that what I really wanted was freedom. And since I wanted that so bad, since I was so clear on what I wanted, I went and started my first business. So I was still in the corporate world. I was in sales. So I had some flexibility with my schedule. And I basically worked things and systemized things so that I could crush it in that sales position on only like 4 hours a day. So I would do that in the morning and, manage my BlackBerry at the time, which if you guys remember the BlackBerries. So I'd manage my clients throughout the day, but I would start going to like the golf course every day. I was on the golf course every day at 3:00. And then I realized I hate golf and I want to make this money and I want freedom. So what I'm going to do is replace this extra time that I have with starting my first business. So I started my first business on the side and I just went all in. I, again, had made that internal commitment that I was going to figure it out some way, somehow. I was going to do whatever it took to make it happen. So started my first day trading business, went all in on it. Long story short, created my own algorithm, automated that and built that up. So I was making more money on the side by pressing this on and off button with this investing algorithm that I created than I was working full time. And here is where I really started to generate wealth with intention to give me freedom. And what I wanted was financial freedom. And that's why what you're talking about with the Cash Flow Diary so important, because as soon as I got that, that was way more priceless than the dollars. The freedom feeling that I had financially and in my mind with the confidence that I could generate money and generate wealth and do so in a residual or passive way was absolutely game changing. And I paid off all my debt and I had this feeling of freedom. And then I was able to leave the corporate world where I literally had, all the freedom in the world. And when you and I initially connected, I was traveling around the world and I had started this other thing on the side as just a hobby because I could. I had no money concerns. I could not do anything for 15 plus years and live very, very comfortably. And I had what so many people would dream of, what I had dreamed of. So again, a long-winded way of saying I went from money to freedom being the real goal. And then I went to other forms of wealth and what success really is, where there were some contribution pieces in there, because now I get so fired up to talk about the things that kind of I went through and the mindset pieces, as well as most importantly, creating a business that can thrive and generate success, because people start into business as an entrepreneur to have that freedom that I'm talking about, to have money and have cash flow and have opportunities and have some freaking fun. You know how many entrepreneurs are having those 3 or 4 things? Less than 1%.
Not enough is what I was going to say.
Not enough is right. So that's why, what I'm doing now is generating all the pieces of a successful life that I want for myself as well as for others, including the time, including the freedom, including the money, including the growth and momentum and the feelings that come from that. But most importantly, freedom is still at the center of what we all really want.
And what's interesting about that is that I think many people, we all go through that transition. That same carrot starts for us all, and then eventually we evolve into a different version. But what many of you may not have caught, that I want to make sure that you hear, is that the quantity or amount of money can honestly, in some cases, come down because it doesn't even matter. And it's not it's not so much about the stack you have, but how it's earned. That tends to change your quality of life. So speaking of quality of life, let's talk about these entrepreneurs that you're now helping. Why? I mean, first of all, the name of the company, Scale 2X, that in and of itself is a That's a pretty bold promise. Okay, so let's start with that and help us understand, what is it that you've seen or the people that have come to you, what are we doing so wrong that you can know that you can scale 2X?
Yep. And it's not only scale 2X, it's 2X in 90 days. so we've got
I was going to try to leave. I was going to let that go. I wasn't even going to mention that, but now you've brought it to the table. So now you got to talk. Go for it. Hey guys, thanks for listening as always, and I'm glad that you continue to support with each and every download and subscription and share. One of the things that I want to ask you, though, is where are you listening to me from right now? I know some of you, maybe you're on a treadmill, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're walking that dog, and some of you are actually in a vehicle driving right now. One of the fun things that you can do, get some of your time back, is begin to living a car-free existence. But even then, it can be a little complicated. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to go over to Zipcar. Go to joinzipcar.com/cashflow diary. It's a way that I am able to still go get a car just for a few hours, very, very simply, so that if I have a lot of errands to run and sheets to drop off and running to the short-term rentals, or if I just want to go for a long trip up to LA and back, etc., I can rent a car for a very, very short period of time. And the cool part is I don't even have to pay for any gas. Again, go to joinzipcar.com/cashflow diary.
So again, we're working with people that already have traction. How do we double in 90 days? Well, there's, of course, a formula that we work through. And, success breeds success. And what I learned, first starting out with the podcast was that everybody had the same journey. Well, with a successful small business that can scale and scale rapidly, what we found over the past few years, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs directly on their businesses, is that there's a formula. And that's what we work people through. But the high level overview of what we're trying to do is to remove the CEO, the entrepreneur, from being the bottleneck in their own business. Because so many small business owners, as in pretty much all of them, don't really have a business. What they actually have is a hustle. What they actually have is a self-employed job, in which means we're still very much trading time for money. And that's against everything that you talk about, and that's against everything that we talk about as far as being able to grow. So if we can create the business in such a way that it's not dependent on the entrepreneur's time and effort and being able to work 100-hour work weeks, which I've done, and I burnt myself out and I had to call 911, which that's a different story. And there's a simpler and better way if you have the proper business model, if you have a business that, again, removes the key bottleneck from the equation, which is 99.9% of the time the entrepreneur themselves. And if they're able to do that, they're able to step out of working in the business and actually be able to work on the business. And most people know what to do. Like if they just had twice as much time to be able to actually grow the business, we don't have to help them at all. They know what to do oftentimes, right? And it's not necessarily like people are looking for this crazy secret as far as like this marketing strategy or this Facebook ads thing or whatever it is. When in reality, again, they given the proper time, they can know some things to do that are going to be able to grow the business. They just don't have the time because they have a horrible strategy and they have a model that kind of keeps them at the center of their business, and which is interesting because it's actually what we want subconsciously. Like we want to feel important, we want to feel needed, we want to make decisions. We want to be the one that drives success. But to get to the next level, you have to let go of all that and say, what I want is this freedom. What I want is this growth. What I want is this time. What I want is this ability to support my family. What I want is a lot of money. And I want that stuff a lot more than my ego wants to be the center of it. And as soon as we can get that across and be able to relay that, now we can start to make some structural changes to their business and to their time so that then, boom, now we can scale and scale rapidly.
So you're saying I'm my own problem?
You are your own problem. I am my own problem. Every single entrepreneur is the biggest and only thing that's in the way from massive growth.
Got it. So, and I hope everyone's listening intensely. These are the things, by the way, that attracted me to real estate, is the fact that, one, I can't get in the way because I don't know how to fix anything. So there's no way for me to be the bottleneck because I don't know how to fix anything, and I can hire all the other people to do many of the other tasks. That's why short-term rentals work so well, is because there are so many things that other people can easily do, or software can easily do, that you become that job creator. But you have to, it takes a different mentality, Austin, to make these things happen. So how does one make that mindset shift?
The first thing that we've touched on a couple times is to go back to what is it that you really want. And this is the hardest.
But hold on. What I really want, you are almost telling me I don't even know what I really want.
You don't. Most entrepreneurs, this is the hardest thing to actually figure out.
That's the problem. The problem is I think I know what I want, but you're saying you don't.
Okay, so, well, you may. And here's the thing. We have to get clear on what that is, because as soon as we define what that is and literally put it on paper and put it in front of us, we can say, okay, Jay wants to work 20 hours a week and he wants to take home. Let's Susie. All right, Susie wants to work 20 hours a week.
Okay, there you go.
And she wants to, make $250K in profit for herself. Then we can just look at this. All right, this is Susie's dream scenario, and we're not talking about 5 years from now. We're talking about in the next 6 months, right? Something that's realistic and tangible right in front of us. This is what Susie wants. Now we can match that up with, all right, here's what the reality is now. Here's what the business model is now. Here's what the numbers look like. And we can see that these two things are totally not aligned. And we can see that we need a completely different model. We need a completely different strategy, a completely different approach, where the math makes it a no-brainer of how this is going to happen. So step one is vision. Step two, we've then got to understand what is the model for this that's going to make this happen. And we have to have those two things aligned, because so many entrepreneurs, it's crazy how many entrepreneurs don't have goals or don't even know what they really, really want. I'm talking 99% of entrepreneurs that we work with. These are successful people, 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs. They can't tell us with confidence and clarity exactly what they really, really want. There's a great process that Cameron Herold, he's an author, business coach, and former COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and he helped take them to massive, massive numbers. And he's who I learned the vivid vision process, and it's worth Googling and watching some YouTube videos, and really worth going into that, because once you are really clear on that, then you can see that the vast majority of what we're spending our time on, the vast majority of our business, is actually not only not helping us get to that vision, it's actually impeding us from getting to that vision. So, this isn't we work in the nitty gritty on the business stuff, but we've got to start with the vision stuff. And I don't want it to be kind of, woo-woo or anything, but that's really where it starts, because ultimately that's where it needs to end. Remember, business is a tool to drive you to your dream life. It's a tool. And most entrepreneurs treat it as the end goal of its in and of itself. And that's not it. So we, again, utilize the business as a tool to create the life that they really want. And if it's done right, that business is part of their dream life. I love talking about the stuff that we talk about with 2X. I love doing the consulting and doing the, investments into the companies that we work with and whatnot. Anyhow.
Wow. Now, I keep, what's going through my head is, BBD, and I don't mean Belle Biv DeVoe, for those of you who know that. This is business by design as opposed to default. And what you're really, what I take from what you just said is, not only do I not know what I want, but I'm using my time inappropriately, because what I hear is Pareto's principle coming to play. Hey, let's figure out where you're not only wasting your, since you're not even clear, let's also figure out where you've been throwing time and caution to the wind, and let's be more intentional about that. So
100%.
if I'm hearing you correctly, those two things and then putting structured action behind them, that results in doubling the business in 90 days?
Yes, we've helped clients this year. So we just started officially, not even 11 months ago. Yeah, so not even 11 months ago. And after 10 months, we ran some of the numbers and we helped our clients, again, 6, 7, and now 8-figure. They started with us at 7 figures. We've helped generate over $44 million in revenue just in the program, let alone what happens after. And the way that we've been able to do that is exactly what we're talking about. Number one, understand where they want to go. Like, what do they really want? Number two, understanding with really deep clarity where they're at right now. What do the numbers tell us? What's actually working? What's not? And then we just connect the dots between where they're at and where they want to be by thinking about what's the simplest and most direct path that we can take to make that vision become a reality. You mentioned Pareto's principle. Everything that we do is really with the 80-20 at the center of it. It's like, all right, what's the simplest and most direct way? Because we don't have more time. What we're trying to do is to actually cut out things and make things way simpler, because most entrepreneurs fail for a number of different reasons. And one of the top ones is because they make things way too complex. So if you see some of our growth strategies with clients, you would be blown away by how simple they are. And that's actually one of the keys to our success, is by having it be so simple that we can't fail. That, it's very easy for us to do. And if you get to 6 figures, there's no reason at all that you can't get to multiple 7 figures. And we've shown that over and over again. We've got a client satisfaction rate over 90%. We've got a success rate, meaning having rapid growth over 75%. In my previous businesses, I used to have online programs and whatnot with different online programs, and a great success rate was 15% or whatnot. No, we're looking for 80% or more, and we've had that most of the time. If we would. Yeah. Anyhow, we have some really good traction, and it's crazy our success rate of helping clients more than double in just 90 days. And we've had, on average, our average client much more than doubles in 90 days. Actually, almost triples in 90 days.
So let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Please.
Because I know someone is, they're driving their car, they're washing their dishes, they're listening to you right now, Austin. They want what you are describing, but that question is in the back of their head. They're like, will it work for my business? You know that was coming. I
hear it every single day.
Well, I mean, what business does it not work for?
Our bread and butter is service-based businesses, because one of the biggest things that we do that we haven't talked about yet is help people systemize their business, A to Z. Because again, we want stuff to be really a strong business, meaning that it can actually run without any one person, specifically, again, the entrepreneur or CEO. So our bread and butter is on service-based businesses. But what we did at the beginning is go wide to see, all right, who's going to get the real traction with this, and who's not, who's this not going to work for. And we went wide. And what we found is this works across every industry, because what we're talking about is zero tactics. We're going straight to the fundamentals of a successful business. What we're doing is helping simplify things down to the core, and using the same strategies that worked for Rockefeller, that worked for JP Morgan, that worked for Carnegie, that worked for people for centuries and centuries and centuries, that will work for centuries in the future. And if we can help people have a more simple, much more strategic, much more systematic business, that they have much more control of their numbers and their time, I don't care what industry we're talking about, you're going to grow. And we don't even care, even though we talk about 2xing and 5xing the revenue and whatnot, and some of these crazy numbers. What we're actually most interested in is, what's your take home? What's your cash flow? What's your time? And those things are all going up exponentially more than the revenue is, because it's very important to us to, again, do whatever we can to help make that vision become a reality. And the revenue is just a vanity thing. Like, that's just to get people's attention. And even the clients, like, they get excited by that at first, but by the end of it, they're much more interested in the cash flow, in the profit, in the time, in the control that they have, in the feelings of having a much more systematic and successful business.
Well, here's what I know now. I know that there's a number of people who have listened this far and they're like, okay, I'm ready to put Austin to the test. I want to find out more about what these guys got going on. So what's going to be the easiest way for them to track you down?
Come to our site. Check out what we've got going there. Since we are a one-on-one service, we give away as much information for free, because the information is useless without implementation, without execution. So we help with implementation and execution. So go to scale2x.com. That's SCALE, number 2, x.com. You can see some of our free resources there. And again, we've got a lot of time to help you gain back control of your time, understand what a systematic and scalable business looks like, a ton of success stories and case studies, and a lot more of those coming out that you can see some really good value to see exactly what we could do for you in your type of business and industry. And then from there, reach out to us and we'd love to chat.
So let me ask this question as we wind down, because I'm curious to hear your answer. You've gone through many different transformations, which means that I think the answer that you're about to give is going to be very valuable for a number of people, because there's a person who's listening right now. They're at what I'd like to call that precipice of decision. They are like, you know what, I'm going to get into business, or they're like, you know, yes, it's time. I'm done with 6. I'm ready for 7. I'm done with 7. I'm ready for 8. I'm ready. You know, I want more. But at the same time, you know, like I know, that when we reach those moments of decisions, we often have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice, and that voice tells us, like, really, you said that last year. You're like, you're gonna go. I mean, 6. You're a 5-figure guy. You're not gonna get to 6. You're a 6-figure guy. You're not gonna get to 7. You're 7. Whatever. It's not gonna happen. You tried that before. And for some people, they're related to that voice. So let me ask you this question. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're going to follow through. This time they're actually going to do what you say, Austin, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
First thing I would suggest that they do is get out a piece of paper and put in the middle of this piece of paper a little stick figure or a little caricature of themselves. Okay? On the left-hand side at the top, put at the top right now and put that date and underline that, and then start to put the characteristics and qualities that you've represented in yourself in the past 6 months, let's say. Then on the right-hand side, put future, and then start to put what are the characteristics and qualities of the person that you have to become to help make that vision. And again, that's another homework item, is to like go deep into the vision of like what you actually want. What do you really want? What are you in business for? Because you're going to be spending a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of stress, a lot of thought, a lot of your life into your business. We've got to make sure that we're very intentional about what that business is going to give us back. Right? So starting with the vision, but number 2, thinking about who you have to become. And by seeing this right in front of you, here's where I've been. Here's the excuses. Here's the characteristics. Some good, some bad. And here's who I need to become. Because as you said earlier, you're never going to outgrow your level of personal development. You're never going to get to the next level of what is possible until you become that person. So those characteristics and being decisive and taking action and not taking excuses and whatever is going to it's going to take to make that vision become a reality, you've got to start there. By seeing it right in front of you, that better spur you into motion. If it doesn't, then you're probably not destined for that particular thing. Meaning, again, you're making a short-term decision instead of a real capital D decision in the way that we've talked about it at the beginning of this, a commitment in your mind. And then the third and final piece is to make sure that your environment starts to back up who that new person needs to become. Because Jay, I started talking with you. We were in a mastermind together because I wanted some of what you could help me provide. You were part of my new network. I had to let go of some of those voices. Some of those voices were internal. Some of those voices were external. I had to squash both of them, right? And following up with the environment to make sure that the environment supports. And sometimes that environment's a coach. Sometimes that's, paying Jay or paying me a big fee so that you actually spur yourself into motion so that you have that new environment. But other times it's no money involved where you can just make those decisions yourself.
Indeed, 100%. I definitely appreciate who you have become, who you're becoming, and how you're helping other people become the best, bigger, better versions of themselves as well. And I definitely want to say thanks for doing that, because that's not easy work. And more importantly, thanks for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, as well as your insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Appreciate you, Jay. Keep doing what you're doing, and let's definitely connect more than once every 4 years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means scale to x.com. Go there now. Why? Because like I know, you got excited when you were listening just now. And you know what happens. There's that law of diminishing returns, or diminishing intent. The further you get away from this episode, the less likely you are to take action. So do it when? Now, o'clock. Scale 2x.com, because at the end of the day, man, time, it's such a valuable asset. Let's put it in the correct context and use it for your business. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.